Man, this 2020 will not leave us alone. It's always something, and last night was the most stunning of all.
Yes, you and I were just discussing. We did not, as we left yesterday, we saw each other. We did not envision being here.
Whew. Okay. Well, throughout the show, I'll do my best to keep everyone updated if any new developments do come up. But right now, let's just catch everyone up to speed with what happened yesterday in the NBA. The Bucks' decision to boycott Game 5 for the shooting of Jacob Blake sparked boycotts from all other NBA teams that were set to play last night. Bucks guard George Hill said, quote, "We're tired of the killings and the injustice." There was also a players' meeting last night where the Clippers and Lakers reportedly voted to not continue the remainder of the season. They were the only teams to do so, and meetings will continue this morning at 11 Eastern time. So, Shannon, I'll start with you. Your reaction to everything that happened yesterday and last night.
Skip, what I gather is that the NBA players saying this is not business as usual. They said, although we appreciate taking down a few monuments, renaming a few schools, a few buildings, taking these Confederate generals' names off of military establishments, Skip, but right now we need more substance than symbols. And while these symbolic gestures may placate some, it's not nearly enough. You see, Skip, they say, what's important to you? And we're starting to see these things that are important to you is becoming distracting from the greater view of things. It's because we went down here and we have Black Lives Matter T-shirt and how many more and say her name. And as we say her name, there's another name that needs to be added to the list. And there's another name that needs to be added to the list. And how many more? That's the question they keep asking. How many more? And they just watched Jacob Blake, 7 shots to the back. And then they watched someone come from another town with a long gun and gun down 2 people, tried to surrender, and the police let him go. He gone right on through.
Although they did finally go arrest him.
Yeah, finally go arrest him. But Skip, see, when people see this, though, Skip, this is the problem that they have. They see a young Tamir Rice with a toy gun, and they see the police roll up on the scene, and in 12 seconds, he's dead. He's 12. And they see this young man here have the AR-15 running through the streets. He has on gloves, and they wait till the next morning to go arrest him. They're like, what? How?
Yep.
It is so, I am so proud of the NBA players, Skip. I'm so proud of them. But this is not what they signed up for. A lot of these guys work their entire lives to be in this position. We don't know if and when who will get back to the playoffs, Skip. This might be their one shining moment. And they were willing to sacrifice it. This is not a preseason, Skip. This is not an exhibition. They put a hold to the playoffs. They said, we're going to have a conversation. I'll get to LeBron in a minute. And it says, Skip, we put people in office. What the hell is Lindsey Graham and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer? What the hell are they there for? That's what we elected them for, is to deal with things like this.
Yep.
So athletes and people like myself that didn't go into politics don't have to deal with it. You're supposed to work for the constituents. But what I'm starting to see, Skip, when it comes up to an election time, everybody wants to get the ball rolling. But, you know, black people are not just dying in the streets when it comes to an election year. There's not just inequality in an election year. This goes on year-round. But it seems to be you put this on the back burner, deal with your personal agendas, and then when election comes up, let's get it. Black Lives Matter. We need equality. Hell, we've been needing equality. Skip, this is not new. They make it seem like this 2020, and I get the pandemic, and I get that we haven't seen, you got to go back to 19 or 18, the pandemic. But Skip, the inequality and the racial injustice, Skip, that's not new to 2020. But somehow these politicians think this just came about, and they don't seem to understand. But so now this is what the players need to do. And everybody say, okay, what's next? What's next? Well, I'm going to give you an idea of what's next. The players have a platform here. Now you have people that's been dealing with these issues for 40 and 50 years. I got the National Action Network, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, African American Policy Reform, the Advancement Project, things of those nature. You see, Skip, the NBA players are the computer, but a computer doesn't work without software. So let's merge the two together. Let's take the players and their platform and get some resources and give it to people that can advance the ball. That's what we need right now, because this is not enough. They say, we're done with this. This is not business as usual. And for LeBron James and the Lakers and Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers say, we'll bounce. We're real about this. For the first time, Skip, you threatened. I heard George Hill. I was like, and I'm saying to myself, Skip, I said, I don't know if they really do that, Skip. I mean, they're already down there. But there are some players that say, yeah, we absolutely will. And LeBron James says, I want these owners to take more ownership of this. I get the statement with Black Lives Matter, and I get all this. But we want you to get those contacts. Skip, when you build these fancy arenas and how you go to the local and state level politicians and get things done, how the NFL, when they want to build these new fancy stadiums, how they go to the local politicians and state politicians and get these things done, these big dollar donors, that's what we want. You say you care about us. You say you care about these issues. Now we want you to put your money where your mouth is. We want to see no more lip service, no more symbols, substance.
Yep. Okay, gut feeling before I take the floor. Season or no season? Finish or no finish?
I'm 50-50 right now. I'm 50-50.
Okay.
Because as
we got a long show. We may know more here in the next hour or two.
As Udonis Haslam said, if the Clippers and Lakers leave, what are we staying for?
Well, it sounds like the Bucks could be right there also, so that would be the top three teams, odds makers teams,
exactly.
Right? And that would basically take the heart right out of the playoffs, right?
Adam Silver would. If that were to happen, if the Bucks, Lakers, and Clippers pack up and go, he's shutting it down.
Obviously, we don't want to see that happen.
No.
But let me first say, I loved what the Milwaukee Bucks did. It took me a little by surprise. I think it took the rest of the NBA by surprise.
Because they said they didn't expect this. NBA execs, even the Bucks execs, didn't see this coming.
Nobody saw this coming outside that locker room. And it didn't happen until there were about 5 minutes until tip-off. So I'm sure they were going back and forth very emotionally inside those locker room doors. And if I'm understanding this correctly, LeBron didn't know about this. Lou Williams and Kawhi and the Clippers did not know about this. They had discussed it. They thought there would be a unified front. If they were going to boycott, it would be with a big press conference led by Chris Paul and LeBron James as the two faces of the league, or the two people at the top of the Players Association. And there would be a complete unified front in which all teams would in unity boycott.
Correct.
But the Milwaukee Bucks decided at the last second, literally at the last second, with Orlando ready to play out on the court. The Magic are out there. They're ready to go. They decided, no, this is pretty much a home game for us.
Right.
This is Kenosha, Wisconsin, which might as well be a Milwaukee suburb. It's about 40 miles. Some people, I'm sure, commute into Milwaukee to work. And they obviously took this a little more to heart than any other team could, because it's theirs.
Right.
It's in their home area, state. It's right there for them to have to come to grips with. And George Hill, as the emotional leader of this team, I'm not sure he's the on-court leader, but he's the emotional leader. He is the out-front spokesman. And he had said just a few days ago, we shouldn't even be in this damn place, this bubble,
That's what he said.
And I applaud them and I congratulate them for taking a very gutsy plunge that became a resounding statement in this country. I got calls, I got texts from all over the country from friends and relatives saying, can you believe this?
No. I didn't.
Wow. They did that.
They did it.
And they were the first big domino to fall. And then all of a sudden, across sports last night, dominoes fell everywhere. And they started it. It was because the Bucks had the guts to plunge. They broke ranks to do it. They went prematurely, but they did it.
But you know who the big dog was? Giannis.
Well, I'm sure he was.
If Giannis says we're playing, they're playing.
No, I got it. So I did love the statement of it. And again, is it going to end racism in the United States. No.
No.
But it was another awakening moment where I can only speak, from the white perspective. I think a lot of white people sat back once again, as they did in those weeks through the protests after the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis.
Yes.
And it was another enlightenment moment. It was another awakening moment of, wow, they are really serious about this. And I was forced to go through a night with no basketball. And you know how much I love my NBA and my NFL. We're going to talk about the NFL in a few minutes here. It hurt, but it hurt in a good way because it just showed how serious these players are about trying to get something done.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to make the statement one more time. It was naive for anybody, including George Hill and the Bucks, to think that all the protests, all the awakening, all the enlightenment, everything you talked about, eradicating those symbols, those statues, those names, that would eliminate racism within the ranks of the police across this country.
No.
Because you know and I know, racist cops are already embedded in their jobs.
That is correct.
They were grandfathered in. They're already there. They're in power. They got a badge, and they got a gun.
Yeah.
And you can't stop their mentality. You hoped that some would be awakened enough to say, maybe I should think twice the next time, maybe.
Right.
But there's one guy or maybe a couple of guys in Kenosha who didn't get that message, and it happened.
Skip, I don't think George Hill thinks that, after the protest, but what we want is accountability.
Accountability. Consequences.
Yes.
Consequences.
Because as you mentioned, as those cops are embedded, the system is also in place. And people say it's a broken system. It's not. Skip, it's like when you stick the key in your ignition and turn it over, or you push the button and it fires up, the car is not broken. The car did exactly what you were supposed to do when you pushed the button. It cranked. The police system is working exactly how it was supposed to work when they instituted 200 years ago. The system is not broken. Actually, it's working like a finely tuned machine. It's doing everything that they set it up to do.
You can certainly argue. So, I throw this out just to frame all this. We always talk about perspective.
Yes.
In context. Is it possible that some in the bubble are they're suffering such bubble burnout? They're so at wit's end. There's such cabin fever because they've been stuck in that bubble for so long and they don't like it. And the families are to come round 2, which would be the next round of the playoffs, but they're not quite there yet. Is it possible nerves are so frayed that this is a little more of a raw reaction than it would have been had they been playing real basketball at home, with real travel schedules and the whole thing? Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit. Still, it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yes.
And still, it prompted a fiery meeting at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Everybody went, coaches, players. They even had some of the family members of Jacob Blake on some sort of Zoom call to participate. So this is high, raw emotion.
Correct.
And there was some anger because some of the leaders of the other teams were like, I thought we were going to discuss this and have a unified approach to this, all for one, one for all.
Right.
LeBron was angry in part because of that, because he wanted to be the out front leader. But he also took it personally that the owners haven't done enough.
Right.
So reportedly, he led both his team and, to me, the second best team, or maybe the first best team, the two best teams, Clippers, the two LA teams, walked out in unison.
Yeah.
That was the first unified approach of those two teams, right?
Yes.
And he led the charge out the door because they had heard enough or not heard enough during the meeting.
Right.
So the ranks are split a little bit here because the top two teams, we think you can throw the Bucks in, obviously.
Right.
They're saying we haven't done enough. All those things are great. The T-shirts, the logos on the floor, the messages on the back of the jerseys, all that's fine, but it wasn't enough. And it didn't obviously stop what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So now it's Lakers, Clippers, and I would like to think it's more of a threat than a vow, that it's not over yet, and they're going to meet again at 11 Eastern, 8 our time here in the Pacific. And I would hope that they would see their way clear to maybe boycott another couple of games, but to come back and finish the year. And this is my gut feeling on this whole thing. I know they have all discussed, starting with George Floyd, could they do more at home than in the bubble? Well, I'm curious what you think about this, because my 2 cents from a distance are that in the bubble, you still have that great stage. We're entering the heart of the NBA playoffs. Everybody's interested and everybody's ears, eyes are open to what you're saying from the bubble.
Right.
If George Hill, let's take him for an example, goes home, does he lose some of his stature, his platform, his power? Maybe. I would say yes.
Skip, I don't believe. Here's the thing. There's no worse feeling than feeling like you're helpless.
Yep.
Because, Skip, as you see a child is crying and you know there's something wrong and there's nothing you can do.
Okay.
Well, these black athletes, and there's some of these people feel like there's black people in America crying and they're down in the bubble and there's nothing they can do. George Hill says, you know what? If I wasn't in this bubble, guess where I would be? In Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Maybe LeBron James says, if I wasn't here, I'd be in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Maybe I would be a part of Portland. Maybe I would be in Chicago, but I'm here in this bubble. You see, Skip, the thing is that what people don't understand, and I want people to understand this every day. Every day you live your life, I want you to understand one thing. You're writing your eulogy. Mm-hmm. And LeBron James says, I'm writing my eulogy. Some of these guys says, I'm writing my eulogy. Am I just going to be a basketball player? Mm-hmm. When they lay me, as I'm laying in that casket, or I'm in that urn, only thing they're going to say about me, I was a basketball player, is that the only thing they can say?
Okay. Well, none of them are prisoners in the bubble, let me tell you.
No, but
they could leave now. But at this moment, they could all pack and go.
Yes, but they like, you know what? I want to be here for my team. And I thought that, you know, Skip, and maybe it was naive of them to believe that after this uproar, this uprising that we've had over the last 3 months, that it would tone down. It's ratcheted up. It's going nowhere, Skip. Every night you turn on the phone, you see your television, you see another black, another unarmed getting killed. And so we're adding another name to Walter Scott, to Eric Garner, to Philando Castile, to Alton Sterling.
I'm not sure we see one every night.
Skip, they say there have been 300. So how many days has it been since George Floyd was at May 29th to here we are August 27th?
300 unarmed black men or
women.
They said
there's been another 300 murders. Let's just say
shot by white cops?
We don't know if they were shot we don't know if it was, because here's the thing, Skip. What happens when there's no camera? You see, they didn't have body cameras. That's video from somebody's cell phone. Skip, what we've been conditioned, and I was talking to someone last night, Skip, and I said, you know what, we've been conditioned. Because we've always been told, Shannon, you got to look a certain way. You got to cut your hair a certain way. You got to act a certain way. And Skip, before the Rodney King, when the police were involved with blacks, we had been so conditioned, the first thing we asked, what did he do? He had to do something for the cops to kill him. The cops don't shoot people without giving for no reason. And then we saw Rodney King. Now, we get the protest, John Lewis on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and Skip, we saw the protesters in Greece. That was a different situation. Yep. But we talking about police in a one-on-one situation. That was really the first time that it came into our living room. And we thought, wait a minute, we're going to have to rethink how we look at the police, because this notion that they have a reason to do what they did got thrown out the window. Yep. And so now we have what we call excessive force. And so now you don't get the benefit of the doubt. The cops have always received the benefit of the doubt, and they want to continue to receive the benefit of the doubt. And they say, well, Shannon, when black people kill people in Chicago, let me tell you what happens, Skip. When they kill somebody in Chicago, they find out who it is. They don't say, well, we need to gather all the information. We need to do a more thorough investigation before we go pick up Pookie because he killed Ray Ray. They go pick up Pookie. They bring him in, and they gather information as they got his butt in jail. When Dennis Chauvin, the DA, wanted to we need to gather all the information. Because we don't know the circumstances. Yep. That's not how it happened. See, those guys are peace officers, Skip. They're there to protect. So they have an obligation. So I think this is what's going on, Skip. And so to give LeBron, give Kawhi a lot of credit, Giannis, because I think they have the most at stake here. Skip, those are the most visible names. They're the biggest name.
Yep.
I believe a championship does the most for them than any other guy. Throw James Harden in there, Skip. And for them, and like you said, maybe it's just, but I don't believe Doc Rivers, after what he spoke, I don't believe this is an empty promise from him. From LeBron James and to hear him and know what he's been about, I don't believe this is an empty threat from them. I really don't.
So I think I'm hearing from you that if LeBron James reportedly said last night, we need to leave here. If you leave, you have to be in the streets, as in Kenosha, in Portland, in Seattle, wherever you're going to go.
Yes.
I think you're telling me that LeBron has decided to go back and be in the streets.
I believe he would. Because, Skip, the thing is that we're going to have to look. We're going to have to put, and I was talking to Michael Eric Dyson, and I think we're going to have him on tomorrow, Skip.
Yep.
And I say, Doc, we're going to have to find people at the local level, mayors, because they do the hiring and the firing of the police department.
They do.
I said, we're going to have someone to run on a ticket that says we're going to break this union, the police union. And if you're not willing to run on that ticket, you can't be in office.
That's got to be issue number one, and that was straight from Doc, who's, remember, his father, Grady, was a cop on the west side of Chicago.
Got to break the police union. Skip, and another thing I want to see. Like the president can only serve for 8 years. That needs to be Congress term limits. Because, Skip, we've got people in there for 30 years, and it's the same problems when they stepped into office and that they've been there for 30 years that it is today. So I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, Ms. Pelosi, I'm sorry, you got to go. Chuck Schumer, I'm sorry, but you got to go. Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell, you got to go. Because the issues that you said, oh, we're going to take care of this, we're going to do this, you done nothing. And everybody becomes outspoken, Skip, in an election year. Everybody wants to do so much. But, Skip, these issues have been going on last year when it wasn't an election year, and the year before that. So we got to stop letting these politicians, because what they do, Skip, is they overpromise and they underdeliver. Every last one of them. I'm not talking about bipartisan. I'm talking about bipartisan. I'm talking about Republicans, independents, Democrats, all of you guys, you lie. You get in office and tell us you're going to do one thing and you do absolutely nothing. And we're fed up.
Why do you think I always tell you I'm not political? I don't have any interest in it? Because my whole life, from the time I was 5 years old, I knew that was the truth about politics. They all overpromise and they all underdeliver and they all lie. And in the end, I'm like, so what?
Yes. They'll say anything, Skip, they'll say anything, promise anything to get elected. And when they get elected, even though it was the people, they're going to go to the big donors. They're going to go to the big people that gave them the most money. Okay, so what do you want me to do? That's how it works. And it's so frustrating that here we are. Dr. King, Malcolm X, James Baldwin, all these guys in the 60s. And Skip, and I get it. And stop with this. Well, we elected a black president, so now that you elected a two-term black president, racism went away. If anything, it ratcheted up. That's how we got here.
Well, in the end, I hear everything you just said. I still think we have the greatest country in the world, but it has a big, bad problem.
But, Skip, here's the thing. Other countries that had racism, they were under no guise that it was equal. It's only America that wants you to believe that America was like, we were created and it was going to be utopia. You can't have a utopia if you bring a group of people in 1619 and you treat them less than. You rob them of their humanity, their dignity, and their names. You say that you're less than. You treat them like that for 400 years and say, boy, ain't America great. For who? For when? For how? And because a few get out, you take a Robert Smith, who happens to be the wealthiest African-American, and you take Oprah. See, they like to take isolated incidents, Skip, and say, see, but Skip, it's 43 million, with 13% of the population. So you got 1,000. You got 1,000 success stories. And that's supposed to be, see, Shannon, see what you can become? Really?
All I can tell you is you better get out and vote.
Oh, we going out in droves. If I got to go back and pick people up and take them to the polling station.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.